Mental Health Monday
on Radio City Talk
with Mick Coyle.
Tackling the stigma.
Radio City Talk.
All this week it's Mental Health Awareness Week, so you'll be hearing different stories coming out of the press, different survey results, stats and facts that are coming out. We'll continue to cover them as we always do here on Radio City Talk. We're going to have a conversation on that very matter now in regard to the issue of body image. How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about the way you look? There's results of a new survey which have got some really concerning stats around them. Joining us on the programme now and in the studio, Tanya Leary, who is a blogger and indeed has blogged on the very issue of body image. Tanya, great to see you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
You've done one of these things on your blog where you've done the here's what I look like in a bikini.
Yeah.
And this is me.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
How often do you consider, it's a silly question, we all consider what we look like, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And that is natural and that's to be expected. And I feel much better about myself when I leave the house not looking like I've been dragged through a head backwards. But if that's what it needs to be, because I need to get the kids to school or whatever, it doesn't consume a day. And I think I'm really at a very healthy level of, this is me. So you can either be all right with it or get out my face.
There is and I say these are concerning stats. They're particularly bad when you look at some of these. They're Mental Health Foundation figures. 1 in 8 UK adults so distressed about their body image they thought about suicide, about taking their own life. 1 in 10 women said they had self-harmed because of their body image, compared with 1 in 25 men. That sort of gives you a sense that it's an issue across UK adults, particularly an issue within women as well.
Yeah.
Is that because of perception about how women feel about themselves? Is that about, do you think, how society thinks that women should feel about themselves, or how society acts in regards to how women should look?
I think it's a whole host of things, and it's not a one size fits or fixes all. The problem, as I see it, is that we spend way too much time, and it says it here actually, focusing on the external, focusing on how things look in a way that we never ever used to do before. And that isn't just bodies, that is everything, so how does your car look? How does your house look? How do your clothes look? Have you got a new bag? And that is what's feeding our kind of throwaway society, which is something that is on the turn because we cannot continue living like that. But our external body should be viewed, in my eyes, should be viewed as a tool to help you get on with your life. As opposed to the be-all and end-all, because who you are internally is so much more important than the way that you look externally. But because of social media, because of scrolling through Instagram, because of Photoshop, those perceptions have become skewed, and people have seen them as far more significant than they are in reality. Well,
and I wonder whether or not you thought that was the case based around that thing that 1 in 8 have been so distressed about their body image. This survey says they considered suicide. We're sort of getting wiser about this mental health thing now to see that actually mental health and physical health are actually pretty much linked.
Yes.
And of course, I wonder if it's the case that because you're looking at yourself, you're seeing the physical side of it, but you're also seeing your thoughts, your feelings towards yourself. So maybe when we look at body image, we're also thinking about self-esteem, confidence, and they're very much mental health things, even though it's focused on a physical thing. So although this will be seen as a physical issue, I'm unhappy with my physicality, really we're talking about a mental health thing because it's how you feel.
Yeah, how you feel about the way that you look. And there is... your body is an incredible machine that is designed to work when you're awake, when you're asleep, when you're tired, when you're giving birth. It is literally the most mind-blowing of tools that exist or will ever exist. And so to take it down to its basis level of what it physically looks like is really not doing it the justice that it deserves, because its purpose is significantly bigger than that. It takes you to the shops, it takes your children to the school, it does everything that you need it to do. And if your body is not doing that in the way that society and magazines and everything are telling you that you should be doing it, then then if you're not feeling robust, then that's going to eat away at the way that you feel. And so what I think we should spend more time doing is thinking about what your body does, what it can do for you. How strong is it? What how fast are you? How fit are you? Are these things that you can manage and control of? And you can compete with yourself. Fine, crack on. But if you get too obsessed with competing with other people, you will always be able to scroll through enough so that you will come up short somewhere.
How much of this is based around, you mentioned the figures around social media. 1 in 5 said images on social media had caused them to worry about their body image, and the proportion was almost 1 in 2 among those aged 18 to 24. We grew up in an era of, the beauty magazines, and people were saying they're negative. Who were mainly buying the beauty magazines? It was mainly women who are buying beauty magazines. Who is it who's mainly looking at social media? Arguably, it is mainly young people who are looking at social media, though. But, in our day, it was be super, super skinny. Yeah. The Kate Moss look. Yeah. Then it became rounder. You were Jennifer Lopez or Kim Kardashian. Yeah. Now it's sort of thighs and gaps.
Thigh gaps, yeah.
A gap in between your thigh, which that's normally just how you walk. There's normally a little bit of a gap. But then you've got to have that in a photo, which then goes on an Instagram feed, and then people can talk about your thigh gap.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure whether you're supposed to have a gap.
I wouldn't think that you are meant to have a gap. Certainly not a gap of any significance. And that's the problem, isn't it? You see, if you're spending time thinking about a thigh gap, oh my God, you could be thinking about things that are so much more important. What book am I going to read? What am I going to have for my tea tonight? Am I going to go to park run on Saturday?
True, but then we're talking about fashion, aren't we? The fashion for the moment is to have this sort of look, be quite sculpted, and with that might come an element of health. But then what's the cost to some people who aren't able to get to those things or dedicate 8 hours a day in the gym?
I don't think anyone should dedicate 8 hours a day to being in the gym, ever, unless you are a receptionist in that gym. But I think that physicality, the way that you look and the way that you feel are obviously connected. And if it makes you feel good in the morning to get up, put on a full face of makeup, do your hair in a certain way, and that is what makes you feel good to get out of the house, because that's what you want, that is A-OK, and that's fine. But if you are doing those things because you have been Pavlov's dogs into it, because that is the expectation, you feel like you'll be judged if you don't look in that certain way. If you turn up on the school run wearing trackies and your morning glasses or whatever, people are going to see you differently. That it's not acceptable to me that you need to dress or look in a certain way in order to be accepted.
But in regard to that, people go, okay, I'm going to dress like this, I'm going to dress differently for the school run, say, tomorrow. That's the physical then thing has changed, but actually maybe the way people feel on the inside maybe hasn't changed, and that's the thing we've got to tackle. It's the thing that in your brain which goes, it actually doesn't matter how I look at this particular moment. It doesn't matter how I look, or how I look now is absolutely fine for what I'm doing. I'm not being judged, and if I am being judged, I don't really care about what other people think about, because I know that really they're all thinking the exact same thing as I am. Yeah. And that's, again, it's why it's a mental health thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that is a connection between the way that you look and the way that you feel. And it's important that we harness that and do what we can to make that a positive thing. Because, when I look better, whatever I perceive that to be, I feel better. When I get outside and do some physical activity, which a byproduct of that will be that I will look better to some people at some stage, possibly, I feel better. But I think turning it so that you are looking after your body for you, and doing it on a reasonable level, not obsessing about it, not getting hung up on what other people are thinking about your body or the way that you look. That is the absolute key. And so the self-acceptance is the most important element.
There's a value, isn't there, we place on all of these things, where if you go to an awards do, if you're at the Met Gala or you're at the Oscars, the best people have got the best clothes. Like, they'd be the exact same people if they went in their trackies. They'd be literally the exact same person. But we give value to the people who have the best makeup, the guys who've got the sharpest suits, that have the best jewellery or the nicest watch. We've ascribed that. Society's decided they are better because they have the more expensive socks.
Or maybe they are wearing those things, therefore they feel more confident, therefore they stand out more and people gravitate towards them. So it's difficult to know, isn't it? It's not cut and dried. If I'm feeling sharp, I am more likely to begin a conversation with someone or make my opinion heard a little bit more, because I am not kind of thinking, oh, Jesus, I hope no one sees me here today looking like an absolute scruff bag.
Absolutely. But at the same time, so you'd appear, Tanya Leary, here she is looking glorious, and at the same time in the same newspaper, they'd have a picture of 3 other people who they decided didn't look so great.
Yes.
And you'd have a big tick next to your face saying, you look great and your makeup was absolutely on point. And then you go, cross for these other celebs. Look at the state of them.
Yeah.
They're top of the worst dressed list.
Yeah. And that I've made a note here actually about magazines like Closer and Now and things like that, because I just think that they're poisonous. And I think that they feed this whole perception of, oh God, that person looks dreadful. I look even worse than that. Okay, what can I do? What can I buy that will make me look better? So not feeling amazing about yourself feeds, the everywhere, doesn't it? It feeds body creams, it feeds makeup, it feeds gym memberships, it feeds everything. So, there is a vested interest in a lot of people not wanting people to feel the best about themselves just by being themselves. There is a huge £1 million market. Millions and millions of pounds are spent every year telling you, Mick, that if you bought this hair gel, you might look a little bit this, or if you're if you dye your hair, then maybe you'll get that promotion, or and it's about purchasing things to validate yourself, and I just think it needs to stop.
It's only a bit grey.
No,
it's just a little bit.
I think you look distinguished.
Oh, well, I'm going for that. Tanya Leary's with us. We're talking body image off the back of this new survey from the Mental Health Foundation. 1 in 8 have been so distressed about body image they thought about taking their own life. 1 in 5 said images on social media had caused them to worry about body image. 1 in 2 in regard to the age bracket 18 to 20. 1 in 10 women said they'd self-harmed because of body image, compared with 1 in 25. Tanya, are there moments in your life where you've kind of looked at yourself and thought, oh no?
Yeah. God, yeah, absolutely.
Have you had sort of low moments in regard to that? Any time that springs to mind?
I've had lots of low moments, but really, really, luckily for me, they have rarely been. I was talking to my friend about this yesterday. Actually, they're rarely kicked off by the way that I look. That is something that then knocks on the door. If I'm already feeling bad, that is something that will knock on the door anyway. And don't forget, you don't look like Beyonce. Brilliant, thanks. So I think that the danger is that if you're already in a not great place, there are plenty of things that will be waiting to kick you when you're down. And so what is really important to me is that people are able to develop a toolkit of how they manage that when you're feeling rubbish. Because when you are feeling dreadful, it's really difficult to remember that getting out the door and going for a run will probably elevate my mood a bit. And that'll probably be the first step on me feeling a little bit less rubbish today. But when you are in that pit, remembering that information is tricky. And so the blind scrolling through Instagram or the looking on Facebook at how amazing everyone else looks, feels, is, etc., is the easiest thing to do. So it's important when you're feeling good to come up with a checklist of things that you can do that will make you feel like that again when you're at your worst. But when you become a parent, everything is a little bit less about you, and And so it's easy to kind of feel like you're looking at other people that have got their lives more together. She looks amazing on the school run, and she's holding down a full-time job, and she's got this, and she's, and it's just self-perpetuating. But people only allow you to see a tiny percentage of themselves, and they have decided what that is going to be. So the idea that you are beating yourself up based on a Facebook post or an Instagram picture, that is something that is scripted and rehearsed, and we don't know the reasons behind why they want that post out there. Maybe they want to feel a bit loved and accepted, and nobody is on this journey on their own. And if we can all be a little bit more honest and a little bit more open, that it took me 25 minutes today to blow dry my hair, and no, I didn't just wake up like this, and no, L'Oreal, I don't really, whoever. It's, if you're just a bit more honest that who you are internally is the most important thing. That's why blind date exists. That's why they have people behind a screen, because we are inherently shallow people, and you need to have a screen that's allowing you to see who that person is before you see who that person is. Obviously, it's not what it was when Scylla was on, but that's as maybe.
Tanya, you blog about stuff like this all the time. If people want to find access to your blog, where can they find it?
You can find me on mumaleary.co.uk, and there's loads of other bloggers like me that are talking honestly about mental health, and there's loads of things that you can read. So if you log on tonight, I will have given you a few updates of what else you can read and what else you can do to make yourself feel a bit better.
Tanya, thank you for joining us on the programme today.
Thank you.
There's so many important things to take a look at, particularly this week, with so many different stats and facts that are out there. Of course, we always consider, don't we, mindfulness from our own point of view, but how often do we think about young people, children, those who are going through difficult times in school, through exam stress, bullying, and many, many issues as well? There's some new stats out about this week. We're going to take a look at them now with Jonny Benjamin MBE. Great to get you on the programme. Jonny joins us on the programme as a mental health campaigner and somebody you may have seen in the documentary The Stranger on the Bridge. Jonny, thanks for your time. We'll talk about your own story, if that's okay, in a few moments' time. This is so concerning when you hear about the difficulties that children are facing, and a lot of teachers are aware of the difficulties that young people are facing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, let's not forget teachers as well. We know more and more teachers are getting burnt out. There's just more and more pressure, I think, on schools than ever before. Things like exams. Obviously, next week is the SATs testing. And, I know that children have called in over Easter to do more revision. It's really concerning, to be honest. And it's affecting everyone's mental health, not just young people, but teachers, families as well. So, this is why we're doing what we're doing today with this mindful moment, because we want to give young people and teachers, again, tools that they can use to help to manage their thoughts, their feelings, because it's just overwhelming otherwise.
Yeah, let's just give people a sense of this one as well. So 2/3 of parents say their children regularly feel anxious about schoolwork, not fitting in, and friendships. 30% of parents believe having their child learn to manage their anxiety about school life is now more important than schoolwork. 63% of parents agree that it is just as important. It's that thing in it where we can see the problem and we can understand now that it's a problem, but it's about those solutions. What are those solutions, Jonny?
Well, one solution could be this mindfulness, and not just, so obviously we're doing a mindfulness lesson, this mindful moment, but if it was regular practice in school, that could be one potential solution, because we don't want this just to be a one-off. Mental health is not just obviously a one-day thing that we need to address. It's 365 days a year, just as physical health. And in schools we're doing stuff to address physical health issues like obesity through sports, and we need to do more to support young people and teachers as well with their mental health through things like mindfulness. I'd love to see personally a complete change in the curriculum. I know that's quite a stretch, but I really do think that we could change the curriculum for the better to not just focus on attainment, but actually focus on, well-being. We want the next generation to grow up being not just kind of doing the best as they can in exams. We want them to be the best people, both in terms of kind of body and mind, and so we need to start young.
In terms of school, I mean, I don't know what it was like when you were at school. You used to have like registration periods in the morning and in the afternoon. Is that the sort of time that you can factor in a mindfulness period? And that doesn't mean that kids start meditating and sitting there with their legs crossed and forethumb and finger put together, but just moments of pausing, relaxation, where they're not stressing about or thinking about classroom activity.
Yeah, and this is, again, with this mindful moment that we're doing with Class Dojo, we're introducing to kids and to teachers different ways to do mindfulness to relax. So we're doing mindful stretching, we're doing things like mindful colouring, mindful breathing. So there's loads of different ways that you can achieve that state of mindfulness. And again, we want to just give people a sample of what you can do. And again, we want this not just to be a one-off thing, but to be a regular thing that they do in schools.
One of the things that I always think twice about, but I feel like it's important to say when I get asked to talk about the work that I do in regard to talking about mental health on the radio, but then speaking to young people about it. There's an amazing stat that the number one threat to young people in terms of risk of life is actually themselves. It's a really important consideration because the stats bear it out, and it's actually happening now that young people and suicide of young people, 226 young people, the latest figures that we've got across the course of a year, is a horrendous number. But actually, you almost have to say to these young people, this is a serious issue, and it's a serious issue. Now, the other stat, Jonny, that always stands out, 50% of established mental health problems and illnesses are actually established by the age of 14. Exactly. So there's a crucial point, isn't there, in teenagers' lives that we have to make those interventions and teach them things. Otherwise, that becomes problems when you're 24, when you're 25, when you're 35 and 45.
Exactly. And I think now, especially in the world we're living in, there's more pressure through things like technology, through things like social media. Again, I mentioned the testing earlier in schools. So I think there is even more pressure on young people. Well, there's even more pressure on all of us, but particularly young people. I think it's a much more difficult world that we're living in, a really tough world to grow up in, I think. So yes, we need to be starting early on, and I think even in reception, even in nursery, to be honest, we don't have to be talking about mental health as such, but we can, again, be doing things like mindfulness, because we know that kids are coming into reception feeling very anxious. So, again, things like the mindful breathing or the mindful stretching, just ways for them to know how to relax their bodies and calm their minds. It could be a really useful tool.
People often say, just let kids be kids. Let them get on with it. But actually, I know that you've spoken about your own story, Jonny, that your issues kind of came to the fore, or you became aware of them when you were literally just into double figures at the age of 10.
Yeah, well, when I was 10, I started to hear a voice in my head. But you see, I didn't know it was that way. I didn't realize that was a issue till kind of later on in life. We never talked about mental health when I was at school. We never did anything. The only thing that I got was they showed us the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest when I was at school, and that was it. That was our mental health education, which was not great. And we never talked about it at school. And I eventually went on to university, and again, it wasn't mentioned once. And I just thought I was the only person going through these issues, and it just got worse and worse. Depression took over, and I just know that if I'd have got something early on, at school or even at university, I know things would have been different. I wouldn't have got to the crisis point that I got to, which was just horrendous.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned there the generationally teaching people about mental health. Here's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Doing talks in school. It's great when the teachers respond as well, because they because I do this thing where it's like, who here has got mental health? And at the start, none of the kids put their hand up because they're thinking, I can't say I've got mental health. Then at the end, you explain what mental health is. It's exactly the same as physical health. Yeah. Who felt good when they watched the football last night? Who felt bad when they saw their other team, winning, losing, whatever. Well, that's all about mental health. It's about feeling good. And one of the teachers said to me at the last talk that I did, that stuff you said about everyone has mental health really made me think that. Because, you think mental health, you think lunatic asylum.
I know.
And I thought, why? I'm not going to criticise that individual, because actually, if that's what society has just said about mental health, that is the message you're going to have picked up. That is the message you're going to have taken home. And actually, just goes to show, if you make connections in schools, you're not just helping the pupils, you're also helping the teachers.
Yeah, and actually, I think you're helping. I speak to a lot of parents who are telling me now they're being educated by their children on things like mental health. So you're not just helping children, teachers. I think you're helping the adults as well, because as we've been talking about, we didn't grow up learning about mental health, so we're learning actually more about it from our children, from our young people. I think we can learn a lot from them, to be honest, actually.
Should every school workplace have a mindfulness program?
Yes, I think so, but as part of a package, because, mindfulness maybe doesn't work for everyone, but there should be other things in place as well. So, for example, there's things like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Why don't we bring in those tools into schools, into the workplaces, and learn about them? Other things as well, like, there's lots of therapeutic programs now that are happening outdoors, because we spend so much time indoors. Encouraging people to go outdoors more, do things like, just going for walks, taking exercise. Again, that's got a benefit for mental health. I think there needs to be a program. We can't just do one thing, but mindfulness is a start. It's absolutely a start. And if we could get this into all schools, I really do think it could make a huge difference. And I think it could bring down that figure that you talked about before, about, the 2/3 of parents saying their children's experienced anxiety in schools. I think we could bring that down if we did incorporate mindfulness maybe into kind of a daily, or even just a weekly thing in schools. I'm sure it would make a difference.
We've got Jonny Benjamin MBE on the programme today, founding a new charity, Beyond Shame, Beyond Stigma as well. Jonny, I know you'll know the work we do with people like Jake Mills and Angela Samata here on the programme as well. You've become something of a campaigner, but also a mental health champion. Is there a danger that people sometimes look at people like yourself, and I often talk about this with Jake, where they go, well, there's Jonny, he had problems, now he's been fixed, and I can be fixed too, but it's an ongoing process, isn't it, for people like yourself, for Jake, for Angela as well, with their own experiences?
And I'm honest. I'm very honest about. I was back in hospital. I went back in a month ago, and I came out just last week. So I think it's important to be honest about. The times that I've overcome difficult periods, but I still go through difficult periods where I have to take care of myself, and maybe step back and do things like mindfulness, which will benefit my mental health. But I am honest about that. It's not all fixed, and there is no cure. But there are things that you can do to manage your mental health, and I think it's important we educate people about those things, which again is why starting from a young age with doing the mindful moment is it's the beginning. I think it's the beginning of a lifetime's work of looking after your mental health.
Absolutely. And of course, as adults and parents, you do your best to almost appear invincible, don't you, to your kids? That look at me, I can handle absolutely anything. And of course you do that for all the right reasons, because you're trying to portray confidence to your child. But then you've got to bear in mind as well that the child might think, well, when I become an adult, nothing will affect me. I won't have to cry anymore. I won't get hurt by things, because I'll be a grown up, and I'll be able to have those feelings. And you're allowed to have those feelings, and everybody does have those feelings. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, with mindfulness, the point of mindfulness is acknowledging everything. So it's acknowledging the times that you're happy, you're feeling okay, but it's also acknowledging and saying it's okay to feel low, or to feel anxious, or whatever's going on. It's okay. And mindfulness is about not judging yourself for having those thoughts, having those feelings. And I think we really do. We give ourselves such a hard time about, if we're having difficult days, weeks, months, we give ourselves a really tough time. But mindfulness is about saying it's okay. This is part of the human experience, and don't be so hard on yourself.
Jonny Benjamin MBE, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us. Best of luck with the class dojo mindful moment as well. And thanks for joining us.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle
on Radio City Talk.